So in bear markets, what happens is people lose interest, they switch off, they get bored, and they basically sell into the fear. And what they do, they tend to come back when they think the market is trending up, and then they buy the top, then the worst. No, hence basically done money the retail top. This is why it triggered way back here in late 24, early 25. We go back to this index. Look at that, as it were, coming up. Retail was showing interest again. So this is where we were. And for anyone that remembers, in all this boredom and downtrend, I kept making videos every single day for you, telling you I was still accumulating, still buying Bitcoin, telling you I'm buying XRP. I just think it's an incorrective phase. I think we'll come back up eventually. And lo and behold, you know, it took a long time. It was really frustrating, lots of ups and downs, but eventually XRP ran up as anticipated. And it's why I said to you, you know, I'm just buying, I'm accumulating for the long run because I do believe in XRP. I think it's an amazing project, and I think we'll come up, and we got rejected at the high, which is, you know, not surprising, to be honest with you. You know, you come up into resistance, you're going to see a level of resistance. For example, if we look at Bitcoin, you know, this is a top in, I think it was around about 64 kilobits, wasn't it? You know, for Bitcoin in late 24, it come back out, and you got that at late 21. I do apologize. You come back out, and as it come back up, you know, you tagged that resistance and went through the horrible crash and correction and ran about here, wasn't it? You come up, you broke it for a quick minute, and then you went sideways. So you've had that, you know, correction at the highs to build a base and eventually turn around. This is exactly what I think XRP is doing. I think you've just ran up into the all-time high. You're building a base, and eventually you're going to break it, basically. You're going to break that all-time high in enterprise discovery, as did Bitcoin. Once it took out the high, you know, it come down. Oh no, it's going to zero. Everyone was saying bear markets began, double top and all that kind of thing. Came back down, we found a beautiful floor, okay, because we created a diamond bottom pattern. For anyone that remembers, then we bolted, and this was a glorious time for myself and the Kowalski crew. But as we come up, one of the key danger points was this particular index, because again, dumb money, retail money is showing up in droves. And like I said to you at this point, if you're buying Bitcoin up here, if you're buying XRP, you are taking on risk of a macro correction. And lo and behold, we've been in that macro correction ever since. And I think that this is some kind of top formation, and this is the actual top of an impulse in late 24, early 25. And there's stacks of confidence for that. So I think we've been in a bear market for a lot longer than people think. I don't think that this was the beginning of a bear market, especially for XLP and Bitcoin. I think it's some kind of distribution bull trap. You can see it here, free wave move bull trap on depleting volume, like I've shown you in millions of videos. So I think that what we experienced was the true beginning of a bear market as this come up. Retail showing up in droves, late to the party yet again, got dumped on. This is where, again, you know, retail thought they were buying this bottom in February. Look at them showing up. Then again, they're buying in there. And then boom, you know, expecting some kind of big impulse. No, you didn't buy the bottom. You're buying some kind of big distribution move again, which is typically what retail are really good at. So what we're looking at, retail, if it can bugger off, just like it's doing right now, it's not really interested. And we start to form lows and people get really depressed, then you're in accumulation mode, because at some point you will. turnaround. And when you do, all that accumulation is going to pay dividends. So I'm looking at coins that I'm accumulating right now, and I'm looking at logic and reasons why I'm accumulating them. One of the key things is the radar. And this is something I made for you. Again, I said it in the whole entire way down in the bear market of 2022, in that nasty, horrible C way. One thing I kept saying to you in the videos, data, not emotion. This is why I'm buying XRP. This is why I'm buying Bitcoin, because I think eventually we'll turn around, okay, and fear and the data, is your friend. So right now, the Teva dominance is really, really overbought on the monthly time frame. A lot of greed. You're in a sell zone. If we go back to the videos, late 24, early 25, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin, we're all in the sell zone, exactly where, Teva dominance is right now. So take a look at the DEX section on coinsgate.com.pri. Now, I think there's a lot of fear in the market, and again, we could have new lows. Who knows? No one's got a crystal ball, but what I think we're doing right now is what we've done before. I think just here, we had a massive run up into the spring of 21, and we came back down in some kind of a rallied in a bull trap B, and then we rolled into the C wave. And in the C wave, we had little moments of uptick. For example, just there in May of 2022, some DEX volume came back in. People thought, the bottom was in. Yeah, we take a lot of space. No got dumped on again. And then you made, a series of lower lows, lower highs. And then eventually just there towards the end of the year in 2022, you began to turn a corner. You began to come back up and, making a series of higher lows, higher highs. And then boom, you're coming up and down, then bang, you have that massive move in DEX volume, okay, which in my opinion is confidence at the top. You fizzled in a corrective structure, B, come back up, and then you've been rolling the C wave, where again, just like this uptick, just there you've seen some kind of ball trap, and then you're rolling again. So you're starting to make, if you look at this, there's a little bit of a corner that's being turned just there, so we can start to see the DEX volume pick up, high highs, high lows, and then accumulating coins, right? Now could pay dividends, okay? DEX coins. So I'm looking at on the Solana DEX section on coinskit.com. All you've got to do is go to filter macro signals. You can look at buy warning and buy. We'll take a quick look at the buy. Right now you can clearly see that Trump coin. If we take a look on the weekly time frame, you're absolutely rolled over here. And what you've done, you've got a massive level of support where you've got kind of break now. So, you've got this support flush through. You've never back tested that, right? About 5.71. So I'm just going to accumulate this right now. You're creating high lows in the RSI, your volume, a big uptick. You're starting to see depleting volume in this push of the downside. So, the sell-ins will not steam, just like you come up and you start to see the volume telling off the buying from that steam, the trends from that steam. It's trend exhaustion, basically. There's a massive gap between the price action and the 2-0-week EMA on the weekly time frame, obviously the yellow line. So right now, accumulation, because I think at some point this turns around, and this will be the next key level of resistance, right? About $5.71 that I'll sell into it. So if I'm here right now, instead of me buying the Chinese or buying rubbish and silly stuff, just accumulate this, not crazy prices, not all in when my life savings, just a bit of money, here and there. And then, you're looking at 241 appreciation. And it can happen very quickly in these particular coins, especially these, low cap coins, which is what Trump coin is. Not financial advice. Nothing saves financial advice. Everything is for educational, entertainment purpose only. But this is why I create these systems. This is why I create this data index right now, to just drown out all the noise And what we've got macro buy signals for these 4 coins here. If we go to buy, warning, you can clearly see there's even more coins we buy. Warning in the Coins Get Deck section on coinsget.com. So let's dive into the content right now and see what we can see for XRP. Okay, so remember, millionaires are made in bear markets, when people are really fearful, when people are switching off, when you're seeing this blue line just there on the dumb money indicator, when you're seeing this fizzle out. Okay, look at that. And you look at the previous bottom in 2022, I think it was. Look, you're going sideways, dropping, you're fizzling. That look, it's basically coming up. It's trending up as your bottom's coming in late 22. Look at that. Retail doesn't want to know this starts to come back up and down. Beautiful. Retail's just not here. And this is the opportunity, because obviously, like I've taught you, retail is not good at buying bottoms. They're not here when the floor's here. Basically, they're never around. They only show up at the top. Okay, and I'll show you that, and I'll show you again just for, future reference. We go back to all the tops. Go back to the earliest top, which is 2017. Look at that. Retail's here in droves. Then we go forward. Look at the bottom of the bear. Doesn't want to know. It's bored. It's switching off. It's not accumulating at the lows. Smart money is accumulating at the lows. This is blue money. This is dumb money. This is retail. Then as it starts to come up and down, it's not here. It's not here. And then boom, as the market gets frothy and the top's coming. And look at that in the spring of 2021, your retail's showing up. Really simple. And then again, it comes back out late 21. Look at that. Bitcoin's coming up, making higher highs in Ethereum, Cardano, so on and so forth. Fizzles out, bottom of the bear. It's not peer. Came here for a quick minute in and out. When it was bought, it was buying the bottom. And this is one of the danger zones I relayed to you way back when. I don't necessarily think the bottom's in there for XRP, because they're not good at buying bottoms, and this is retail interest. This is basically done money. And again, as we broke out into the spring of 2004, retail begins to show up, and what happens sideways, nasty correction, where everyone thought bear market began, but the trigger for a bear market was slam bang here. Okay, and you can clearly see this come up. Retail's showing up, and we know, from late 24, I'll show you on every single coin, altcoin, we look at, for example, Dogecoin, straight off the bat, we look at the weekly, that was a top in late 24 when retail was showing up. You got your A into your B into your C, you come back up, and right now you're rolling another C wave. So you've got an A into a sideways B, and you're rolling and pulling back into a C wave. And it's getting really, really scary. But down here, look at that. Your bottom is coming in. You're really oversold. Your bottom is coming in as you're really oversold. So you're in that sort of condition right now where you're looking at the inverse, where your TIVA dominance is really overbought. But your altcoins are really oversold. So you've got an inverse correlation staring in your face, which is data. So again, like I said to you, I'm prepared for another drop. Bring another drop, I'll just accumulate even more. But I think we're in accumulation range where a lot of people get really, really fearful, but the data for me right now is telling me to start stacking crypto regardless of, trying to time the absolute bottoms. There is a saying, those at peak bottoms get smelly fingers. The market at any point could turn around you. No, we may not even see another low. Who knows? No one's got a crystal ball. But right now we're seeing data that's selling us okay, start to accumulate, and then sell in the next big hype cycle. Really simple. So when will the next big hype cycle be? Here, you can clearly see when the retail top, the blue line, next time it comes down to that red sell line. get the hell out of crypto. If it's trending up, beautiful. Really, really simple data analysis right there. So you can get all these indicators. Go to coinsjit.com. Links in the video description. Let's take a look at the charts and the index for these coins, especially Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB, XRP, Solana. We'll look at those coins today in the video. So look at the index right now. I think what we've got with Bitcoin, we've ramped up into 5 waves at the retail top trigger. If we zoom out on the weekly to take a look, just there, and I've explained this so many times with you, that basically what we've got is a double top drop. And again, we've got a double top drop just there for Bitcoin. So one of the key things we're doing, and I'll zoom out and look at the macro with you, is really simple. If we look at the crypto index over a long period of time, Bitcoin on the macro is making high highs and high lows. So at the moment, I think what we've got is basically a maturing market, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see this. You know, if you take a look, you're looking at your high lows coming in for Bitcoin over a long period of time. Even this is a massive pullback, and then just there as well. Actually, big bear market of 2018. And then we had another, monster crash of 2020. Then we've got another big crash just there that bottomed in 2022. And right now we're going through another crash. So one thing we don't want to see in the Bitcoin chart, which will be bearish in my opinion, would the fact that we start to come down and break that. If we start to do that, it'll be the first time ever that we're losing a bear market low. There's support, 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 support. You holding macro support, but if Bitcoin starts to come up and down and fizzles out and loses that, you're breaking structure, okay? You've got to project down, because like I've taught you, the structure and the price structure is a boss. But the moment for me to say, okay, it's going to 100% do that, which is what a lot of people are doing, then, it's hopium, isn't it? Because we have to respect the structure. You're making higher highs and higher lows on the macro. Even in recent times, this move to the upside is still a higher high. So if you take a look in the previous bear market, there's your all-time high. Bitcoin had an ABC into the all-time high, found support, and started to come back up. You're doing something quite similar. There's a previous all-time high. You got an ABC into that, find support, and eventually you could potentially say it, because I've not got a crystal ball. It is a potential scenario that eventually we turn around and do something like that. That is what I actually anticipate. It doesn't make me a perm ball. That's just me respecting the structure that I see in the charts. So, in essence, what we can't see and afford for Bitcoin is the fact that it loses that bear market low. If it does, you've broken structure. You're in a new paradigm. Bitcoin's changed. It's no longer, looking at upside and downside and keeps going up forever. It will start to change. And at that point, it could go anywhere. It could collapse. Absolutely. So I've not got a crystal ball. Can't see into the future. But one of the earliest warning shots, some kind of, macro trend shift, will be if Bitcoin loses that. If it loses that, okay, it's in a spot above, isn't it? You've broken the 4-year cycles where you come up and down, so on and so forth. So my primary at the moment is the fact that what we've done, that's the all-time high. We've come with a 1, 2, 3, broke at 4, 5. So we've had a wave 1 impulsive move from there. We've got an A where the retail top triggered in late 24, early 25. We got an A into a B, and right now we're in a C, which is an irregular correction of a wave 1. This is a wave 2, and then eventually we're going to break all this resistance in a monster third wave. There's going to be some kind of big shift and big move to Bitcoin. They could see some kind of big vertical like that, and like that for Bitcoin, that takes it out and breaks into a new paradigm. So, there is a potential scenario that I'm looking at right now, and I've looked at it with you, that BTC versus XAU, which is gold, could be the biggest clue to that scenario. Because if we take a look at the chart, we know that gold has basically been on an absolute tear, since it printed that 5-day golden cross. And the signal on the Coinscape ribbon way back there, I think it was in early 2023. It's been on an absolute tear. But like I said to you, when gold runs out of steam, you'll start to see Bitcoin bottom against it. And then you'll start to see the potential of a third wave. Because from here, this bear market low in 22 for Bitcoin versus gold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the all-time high. Simple A into a B into a C wave, which is pulling back into the support. If this is what I think it is, this is a massive macro ascending triangle that's doing something like this. What breaks out in the third point resistance into a huge vertical third wave like this. And I've already relayed this to you in numerous videos. So the support for this is this bottom, this bear market bottom for Bitcoin versus gold. So we know that gold is a massive market cap, roughly 30 trillion plus. Bitcoin is a minnow. It's basically 1.7 or something, I think it is at the moment. So, for Bitcoin to come up, it wouldn't have to take a lot of market cap from gold. So again, this is a potential scenario that we've got an impulsive wave 1 into the all-time high. ABC, a regular correction coming back down, create the bottoming process, turn around, and break out in the 1-2. Third point of contact of a huge market, macro compression pattern, which is a continuation pattern, some kind of one pullback, 2 into a breakout free, some kind of vertical for Bitcoin versus gold. So that would be the liquidity shift for me, going forward. So this is something that is on my radar. Bitcoin could be about to go, vertical breaking out. And a lot of people have done really well on gold, could be looking to jump into crypto, especially Bitcoin. Okay, and it's the same scenario with Ethereum. If we look at Ethereum on a weekly, it's the same scenario. You ramped up in the late 21, you create that level of resistance, you've gone sideways, bear market bottom, come up into the same resistance, and right now you're pulling back, looking to hold that ascending level of support. And if you do, the next big cycle is a discovery move, isn't it? You've got that big compression pattern from left to right, an ascending triangle that's doing something like this for Ethereum, going sideways. And the next big compression pattern is a discovery wave, some kind of 1 into a 2 into a breakout 3. So the same setup on Ethereum versus USD BNB. We did really, really well for BNB. Anyone that remembers, we bought this between depression and I did say to you, I'm taking some off the table. I'm going to sell at 1 kilobit. This is my projection down here, around about $220. It was a beautiful buy zone because just there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down. 5-wave counter. At this point, I bought and I sold it around about 1 kilobit, and I relayed that to you. So again, I think this is doing really well. You've got a massive sell-off coming back down, really oversold, bullish divergence, MACDs in the floor. So again, this could start to turn around. BNB is a serious project that you have to pay attention to. Okay, XRP, obviously you're fully aware what I think is going to happen of XRP. I think if we start to zoom out, and again, this is macro outlook, I do apologize if you're getting bored, but I do like to keep you updated with my analysis best as possible. And I just don't look at XRP to build my confidence. I look at many other charts. So, this is a macro outlook, not even necessarily in the next cycle, in the cycle after that. If we continue these cycles, you've got 1 point resistance all-time high, you've got a 2nd point resistance just there. And if we come back down, we start to create this high-low structure, which is currently what we're doing for XRP, come back down, fizzle out, and come back out. You've got a 1 to third point of contact breakout of a huge macro level of support, okay, for XRP. So I'm still macro bullish on XRP, providing it can hold that low from 2024, July of 24, around about 0.388 cents. I think XRP is looking for an explosive discovery wave. Solana, exactly the same scenario weekly. Take a look, zoom out. We're looking at higher highs here into a compression pattern of an ascending triangle, mature in market, basically. So we've got level of resistance in the all-time high in, I think it was around about late 21, wasn't it? You fizzled into the bear. You've come back up in 5 waves. Beautiful confidence. We entered the bear market in late 24, early 25. Slam bang is that retail top, which we're agreeing we've got an A into a freeway B, and right now we're in a horrible C wave, which is coming down. Everyone's losing their mind. But I think, we're in accumulation levels for, many of these altcoins, especially Solana, really oversold, bullish divergence. Now, it doesn't mean it can't put in another low, absolutely possible, but what we're looking for is the telltale signs of reversal, and it looks really simple. Impulse above the 20-week EMA, your BMS make high-low structure. You flip the trend. At that point, you can clearly see that if Solana can hold this silo structure from here, and even here right now, I'm not saying this is the bottom, but even if it has another little low, if it can come into this range and hold a high low. The next big move is a discovery wave, because, just like I'm anticipating for Bitcoin next up here, so on and so forth. If it does something like this, fizzles out, comes back out on the third point contact, you've got a whopping ascending triangle, a massive macro maturing market where this next wave is a third wave driven by liquidity of that gold into Bitcoin ratio right there. So that's basically my macro outlook on the coins. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. Join my free Telegram community with a link on my channel where I post my daily crypto experience and arbitrage opportunities you can't get anywhere else.